Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another TEAS math webinar, the second math webinar for this month for the T7. And if you've been following us over at Archer Review for the T7 throughout the month of March, that's what we have just started doing for this month is practice test webinars. Now, before we dive into the details of that, if this is your first time, let me know. If this is your second time, let me know how many time or how many webinars you've attended. Let me know when you're testing. Let me know where you are from. Feel free to come in on the chat, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Zoom. Want to make sure we can hear me okay, see the screen okay, and then also I just want to get some test dates and some locations. All right, so first timer, third webinar, another first timer, another first timer. Very nice. Testing in April, another April. Testing this Saturday. First timer, welcome. Another one coming up this Saturday. Testing 1st of April. Huh, I hope that's not an April 1st joke or April Fools. Good luck to you on that. And first timer, April 4th. All right, well, very good. So, with these webinars, oh, I see one over on YouTube as well. First time as well. Testing next month on the 17th. Chicago. There's a California. Another Georgia. All right. So we're all over the place. East Coast, West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. I'm in North Carolina, if you can't tell by my accent. But if this is your first time, welcome. My name's Brandon Kraft. I have been a math instructor for about 20 years. I did leave the class. I taught college math up until December of 23. I left the classroom full time and I came on full time at Archer Review to help students at the beginning stages of their nursing journey, the pre-nursing aspect, and that is the TEAS test for those of you that are here. At Archer Review, once you get the TEAS test behind you, it doesn't stop there. We can help you all along the way through NCLEX and even if you want to become a nurse practitioner. But my job at Archer is helping students like you all pass the TEAS test. That's one of my number one priorities with this position that I have at Archer. So what we do, first timers, we have been holding webinars for a while now, but starting in March, just this month is when we started doing practice test webinars. Tammy, she does English and reading, Tammy Summerlin. Shelly Harshberger, she's been doing some science. Morgan Taylor, she's been doing some science. And we have another instructor coming back who was out on maternity leave. She'll be doing some science webinars as well. All of these for the foreseeable future will be practice test webinars. Now, mine work a little bit different than the other ones. Tammy and Shelly and Amber, they do a practice test prep webinar, and then 1 or 2 nights later, or I mean, sometime they're real close together. They do a practice test prep webinar, and then they do the practice test webinar. For me, I do strictly practice test webinars now. So, what does that mean? Well, to kind of give you a preview of what that's going to be as we let more people join, what I'm going to do tonight is in every practice test webinar, we're going to be doing practice questions, similar to questions that you could see on the math portion of the T7. But also, what I'm really focusing on as well is some giving you some problem solving tips, improving your speed so that you don't run out of time. I will still try to show you the fastest way. I will try to show you multiple approaches because everybody learns different. And with that said, it's kind of a fine line when it comes to teaching math, how many ways I should show to do a problem. If you get one way that I show you how to do it, don't totally zone me out because you might find another way that I show you may be quicker. But then again, on the same note, if you're getting it right, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if you could do it faster, that may be beneficial. Now, and you may have saw this in the title, mixing the goals and objectives. Earlier this month, I did a practice test webinar that had 15 questions in it, and we went over 2 hours. We started at 9 p.m. Eastern, and it was after 11 p.m. And so I need to shorten that up a little bit, but we're still going to cover a lot. And the main thing I want to go over with you all tonight is I want to show you all how these goals and objectives are mixed. And that's what I'm going to do tonight. So I forgot a color on this one here. I don't really care, to be quite honest with you. M.2.5, but look at some of these colors here, like M.1.1 and M.1.6. M.1.1 is fractions, decimals, and percentages. M.1.6 is percentage word problems. Well, those two goals or objectives, we can mix those together because they're both talking about percentages. That's what I'm going to do with y'all tonight. Another example, order of operations, and maybe you have to round your answer. We're mixing objectives. If we look right here, look at these red ones. I got three of them right here. What are these three? Equations and algebra, translating expressions, equations, and inequalities, and geometry. Tonight, we're going to see an example where I take these three goals, geometry, equations, and translating, and we're going to mix them together. And my point is, if you look at all of these goals and objectives, you'll see 15 of them. Don't look at it as being 15 completely different things. A lot of them overlap. And I say that because I think it's important to see, like you look back and you're like, man, there's 15 different things up here. No, there are a lot of these that overlap with each other. And that's what I want to show you tonight. But before we do that, I just want to go over a few logistical things with you, things that we do offer. So we have these free webinars right here. If you have your cell phone, snap some of these QR codes a little bit later. I will put them back on the screen. We have a free trial of our question bank, and it says over 1,500 questions, but over the past 3 months, we have busted our butts and we have over 2,000 questions in that TEAS math question bank now. So that has been I think Shelly, I'm taking her, still in her line. She said it's been a labor of love. We have been working hard on adding more questions. We also have some on-demand videos. And if you like any of our teaching styles, consider doing a private tutoring session with us. That's one-on-one, you and me, or you and Shelly, you and Tammy, whoever it is, and we can tailor the teaching specifically to you, whatever you want to go over. And then two more things to mention before we start talking about some more math stuff tonight. SurePass, that's where you can get the QBank and the videos bundled together. It lasts longer than just this 7-day free trial. And I will come in tonight. I'm not going to do it as heavy as what I did earlier this month, but I'm still going to give y'all a little preview of what that looks like. And then if you want to go ahead and bundle everything together, the QBank videos and then a tutoring session, you can get all three of those and you end up saving, I think it's like $20 if you just go ahead and put them all together into one thing. So up to you. I mean, again, I know everything doesn't always have to come with a price. That's why we have these free webinars. That's why we have the free trial of our question bank. But with all that said, the tutors, I do tutor. My name's Brandon Kraft. Again, I've been doing math for a long time. And then I mentioned Shelly. She's our science tutor. Tammy, she does English and reading. And something else to point out, I like to do this with all of my webinars. Since I'm full-time at Archer. Shelly and Tammy, they are not full-time with us, but they work a lot. But since I am full-time, I do like to offer a free tutoring session every webinar I do. And I've been doing this for, I think, every webinar this year so far. So how do you win that 1 hour of free tutoring? And by the way, that's, if you just went and did 1 hour of tutoring, I think it's what, $75 at Archer, completely free. You can get that tonight. How do you do it? You got to stay the whole time. And at the end of tonight's webinar, I will gather your name, your email address. You'll do a survey and I'll pick a random name or I'll let the computer pick a random name. So the only catch there is you got to stay through the whole webinar. So at the end of tonight, we'll come back and do that. And then also, if you need any special adjustments to your tutoring, if you cannot find a time that works on my schedule or Shelly's or Tammy's, email us over at prenursing at archerreview.com and somebody will get in touch with you, probably me, and we will get something set up for you to where we can accommodate your schedule as well. Now, I mentioned SurePass and SurePass Pro. I'm not going to talk about that anymore, but basically, those are our bundles. You can get us on all sorts of socials: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and actually, we're on all of those streaming right now, with the exception of TikTok. And I mentioned what we're going to be covering tonight. I mentioned that we are going to be mixing some goals and objectives together. So we're definitely going to be doing that. And this is how the webinars will work with me. So I have a timer up here on the screen, and I'm going to give you a quick math problem. I do this almost every webinar that I teach. You have 57 minutes on the math portion of the T7, and you have 38 questions that you can answer. So I've typed in that 57. This is 57 minutes that you have on the math portion. If you divide that up into 38 questions, what this number right here represents, 57 minutes divided up into 38 questions, you have roughly 1.5 minutes, a minute and 30 seconds per question. So that's why I have a timer up here for 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to test the speed here. We're going to use some speed so we can work on those problem solving skills and solving these problems quicker. Now, by all means, there's going to be some problems up here tonight that will clearly take longer than 1.5 minutes, and I will give you a little bit longer. So during this time here, I'll shut up. I'll let you work the problem out. If you would like, you can come in on the chat, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Zoom. Let me know what you think the answer is. I love the feedback. Obviously, that's totally optional, but that's how the webinars work. And then once that time is out, I'll unmute myself. We'll go over the question. I will show you a way or ways to work it out, and then we'll move on to the next one. So bear in mind, these are practice test webinars. Now, prior to the practice test webinars, what we used to do is cover a lot of content. Like we would teach the content and then do some problems. Well, with math, I'm going to teach you and do the problems at the same time, but I'm not going to be able to go heavy into every single one of these goals and objectives. Humanly impossible for me to cover every single type of problem in one webinar. That's why we do these on a regular basis. So for those of you that are here for your third webinar with me, every time you come to a webinar, you're going to get different math problems. And with that said, are there any questions? I just want to do one more quick mic check on everything. Is everything clear on y'all's end? Come on in and let me know. Zoom is good. And Zoom, y'all are always my quick people to respond because y'all are not streaming. Y'all are like actually in the Zoom session. So as soon as I run my mouth, you hear me. Whereas over on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, that is a stream that takes around 10 to 15 seconds for that to hit the students. But I think we're good. So with that said, here's our first question. And I'm mentioning how we're mixing goals together. And we'll come back and talk about that some more. But I'm going to go ahead and hush. Minute and a half. Try this question out. We'll come back and I'll go over it. Let's get started. All right. So over on Zoom, I know on Zoom the chat is private. So I've got, I don't know, probably a dozen different answers over here on Zoom. Actually, more than that. But over on YouTube, yes, those are there. Facebook. The correct answer to this question is going to be C. Now, I did see a lot of A's. I saw some B's. I don't think I saw, did I see any D's? Maybe. No, I do not see any D's. So here's the kicker. My main thing tonight is to convince you that, hey, there's not 15 different goals up here. M.1.1 and M.1.6 are mixed together. And look at M.1.1, fractions, decimals, and percentages, and M.1.6, percentage word problems. Hopefully, you do see just by the words here that we are essentially talking about both of these goals or objectives in this problem. Now, in this particular example, the supervisor observed 3 out of every 400. 3 out of every 400 posters. And those 3 out of 400 have a misprint on it. First thing that came to mind when I was making this problem, I was thinking about Pokemon cards. My son is all about some Pokemon cards, and every once in a while, you'll get a Pokemon card that has like an obvious misprint on it. Very rare, but it happens. 3 out of every 400. What that means, and we can think of it in terms of a fraction. So I'm trying to tie in some goals here. 3 out of 400 means 3/400. Now, what can we do with a fraction? We can convert a fraction to a decimal by dividing. And you always take the top number divided by the bottom number. So let's go to our calculator. This is a speed thing. We definitely don't want to do any long division here. 3 divided by 400 is 0.0075. Now here's the kicker. I did see a lot of B's up here. And here's where you have to be careful. Here's where the gotcha is. This is the decimal representation of 3 out of 400. But the question said, what percentage? So there's two ways you can do this. Some students will either move the decimal 2 places to the right, or some students will multiply the decimal by 100. It's the same thing. Either way you do it. So check this out. This decimal over here, if we move that decimal 2 places to the right, it's going to be in between that 0 and that 7. Well, watch what happens if I multiply by 100. There you go. The decimal's in between the 0 and the 7. This right here, let me grab my little capture thing. But what you see here is what we have done is we've taken a fraction. We've converted a fraction to a decimal. We've converted the decimal to a percent. 0.75, and I am putting that percent symbol there. So that was the extra step. That's why our answer is C. And y'all, this is just the first example, and hopefully, because I do hear people say a lot, man, there's 15 goals, but we've already seen how we can mix two of them together right here. And I've got several more examples tonight that are going to show you how we can mix various goals and objectives together. Now, with this being practice test webinars, I'm just looking over, seeing I can answer. If you have some quick questions every once in a while, I can answer those. If it gets real crazy, we're like, hey, you need a whole big concept explained. We might have to just shorten that up a little bit because I do want to make sure we get through all of these questions together. But with that said, here comes our second question. We're mixing two more goals together. I'm going to give you actually 2 minutes on this one. It will take you a little bit longer, I think. Go ahead and try it out. All right, so I'm seeing A's, B's, and C's, and we're trying to find the median. The correct answer to this question, unless I did my math wrong, it should be B. So, first of all, let's talk about how we're combining two goals and objectives. M dot 1.3 and M dot 2.2. M dot 1.3 has you putting numbers in order, whether it be from least to greatest, greatest to least. So we have to do that to find the median, and median falls underneath statistics. So notice we're connecting two goals here. Now, if we go back to this problem, to find the median, I'm still going to give you some steps here. I'm not going to like totally leave you in the dark just in case you forget a few things like mean, median, mode, in this case, median. So to find the median, first thing we want to do, step number one, put the numbers in order. Now that can be, in this case, you can go from least to greatest or greatest to least. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to go from least to greatest. Now, I put these negative numbers up here for a reason. And something about negative numbers, the smallest number up here, think about temperature. -6 is the coldest temperature. That makes it the lowest number. I mean, even if this was talking about money, -$6 in your checking account, that would be the lowest number. And you might say, well, a lot of people, they would want to look at it and be like, oh, -1's the smallest, but it's not. The more negative, listen to me, the more negative a number is, the smaller it is. Just like the more negative a temperature is, the colder it is. So -6 is the smallest one. And let's just keep on going. What's next? -5. Then we have -3. And I might mess up here, but I'm just going to kind of eyeballing them. Then we have what? -1. Then we have 0. What is next? A 2 for 2 degrees. Then we have what? 3 and 4. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's our temperatures in order from least to greatest. Now, your second step is where things can be a little bit different. We need to find the middle number. However, we have an even set of data points. When I say data points, I'm just referring to the different values. We have an even number of values. We have 8. And if you try to find the middle number with any even number, if I draw a line right there, y'all, that middle is in between -1 and 0. Because notice, look. We have 4 on the left. We have 4 on the right. You have to be careful when you have an even set of data points. So how do we figure it out then? We have to take these two numbers, -1 and 0, whatever those two numbers are right there in the middle, you want to add those together. Well, -1 plus 0 is still -1. You add them together and then you divide it by 2. Whatever that sum is, you divide it by 2. And here comes some calculator tips. Now, there is no negative button on the TEAS calculator. There's no dedicated negative button. However, for certain situations like this, we can still get that -1 to show up on the screen. And here's how you do it. This will work on the TEAS calculator. So I have nothing typed in. If I just type in subtract 1 and I press equals, there's the -1. Now, we're going to take that -1 and you always, in this case, you're always going to divide it by 2 because you're essentially dealing with two numbers in the middle. So if we take that -1 and we divide it by 2, we get -0.5. And all that is really saying, y'all, is that -0.5 degrees, -0.5 degrees, that is right in between -1 degree and 0 degrees. Negative point 0.5 is right in between negative 1 and 0. That is our median. You have to be careful when you have an even set. So, with that said, what I want to mention here is that, we're mixing up goals and objectives, and you do need to practice. Practice makes perfect. So, one thing, again, I'm not going to deviate, I'm not going to jump into this too much tonight, but I do want to show you where you can get practice, and it doesn't cost you a dime, just your time. That's my one liner. We do have a QBank free 7-day trial, and let me just quickly show you the free, I mean, this works for the 7-day free trial. You can extend it longer, but in our T7 QBank, I'm going to create a test real quick. Let me just slide this guy out of the way. And I'm going to select all of the questions. Oh, and I mentioned earlier tonight, over 2,000 questions is where we're at now. I'm going to tap on next. And let's suppose I want to work on just statistics. Now you can mix this up however you want. But if I want to work on just statistics, that was M.2.2. So I'm going to select M.2 first to get into that part of the math. And then within M.2, you have M.2.1, 2.2, blah, blah, blah. You see them all right here. And if I wanted to work on just statistics, I would select just that goal and I would click create test. And right now you're going to have a bunch of practice on just that goal statistics. For example, here's a question, but this one wants you to find the mean. I'm just going to randomly check one here. I'm going to click reveal answer. I just randomly guessed. You get instant feedback. You get the correct answer. You also get some feedback on as to why the other answers may be wrong. And then down here, if you have our videos, there's actually videos built into the QBank that talk about not that exact problem now. We don't have that exact problem, but we cover the topic, the big idea. In this case, I'm almost certain this video here that I made is when I was probably going over mean, median, and mode, and we were dealing with a table of some type. So that's our QBank. You can go through it. And a student did ask, can you do this as many times as you want? Absolutely. Your QBank does not, as long as you, whatever your subscription is, whether it be 30 days, 180 days, 365 days, you do it as many times as you want. As many times as you want. All right. And if you ever have any questions about that, have any issues, email us over at prenursing@archerreview.com. So that's the QBank. And I will come back to this right here in a minute. Oh, and by the way, too, once you click view result, you submit your test, you can review all of the questions. If I go back and look at all of my previous tests, all of these are different. Hold on, this is a question, but you can go back and look at, oh, here it is right here. Boom, previous test. Look at all these previous tests I've done. I mean, I can scroll back all the way to December of last year when I was just going through testing out questions as I was building them and things like that. So a lot of extra features built into it, but that's the QBank. Now, I'm going to read over some questions. I see a bunch of them coming in. I'm going to go ahead and pop up this third question here. We're mixing in translating and geometry. Mixing two goals again. I will give you 2 minutes for this one as well. Go ahead and give it a shot. All right, so a couple of different answers here. Translating, that's M.1.10. You're translating words into numbers. And then M.2.4, that is our geometry piece. And by the way, these numbers too, M.1.10, M.2.4, we didn't come up with these at Archer. This is how ATI labels the math goals and objectives. So if you have any of ATI's resources, you'll be right at home with recognizing what those letters and numbers mean. Now, the correct answer to this problem, number three, checking my notes, is actually going to be C. Now, I did see a lot of A's, and I also saw some D's. So let's break this down. The length of a rectangle, let me make sure I'm unmuted. Yep. The length of a rectangle is 2 units less than 3 times its width. Let me ask y'all a question. And if you've been to any of my webinars before, when I talk about translating, I do this almost every time. Here's a question. What is 4 less than 20? What is the answer to that question right there? What is 4 less than 20? That's right, 16. Here's my point. It is 20 minus 4, which is 16. It is not 4 minus 20. 4 less than 20. Think about it like this, y'all. Think about it like this. Suppose you had $20 in your pocket. And if I had 4 less than you, if I had 4 less than the 20 you had, I would have 16. So the point here is that you cannot do 4 minus 20. So down here for this in red, 2 units less than 3 times the width. This represents our length. The way we can think about that is the length 2 units less than 3 times the width. Let's take 3 times the width, and we want 2 units less than that. But this is only going to be, and by the way, neither one of these were right, right? Even if I had these correct, I mean, heck, let me just come in here and do it for the heck of it. Let me change this to a 3 and it unhid my thing down there, but it'll be all right. That's that bonus question I got coming up, but we'll come back to that in a second. Even if I put these here, the A and the D, 3W minus 2, 2 minus 3W, these are still not correct. That 3W minus 2, true, it is the length, but we want the perimeter, y'all. We got to find the perimeter of this rectangle. So we're not done. As a matter of fact, this is another goal, multi-step word problems. We're doing multiple steps here. Now, let me draw a picture of a rectangle just to visually get this idea across. So here's our rectangle. I'm going to call this the length. I'll just write it out. Length. And I'll call this one over here the width. And what did we say the length was? The length was 3W minus 2. Now, visually, since we want the perimeter, which means we're going to add up all 4 sides, I'm going to put a 3W minus 2. 3W minus 2, I'm going to put that down here because we have a length at the top and it's the same length right there. But we're still not done with this rectangle. Those two, boom, boom, that's not all of our sides. We still have this side on the right and this side on the left, which represent our width. So how in the world do we address that? Well, y'all, it's right there in the problem. If you look a little bit closer, in terms of the width, W. We have been using W to represent the width. And it's because literally the problem does say the width is W. So we have to come in here and label those 2 sides right there. Now that we have all of this, we have labeled all four sides of our rectangle. We can now find the perimeter. To find the perimeter of any shape, you add up all of your sides. So I'm going to add up two of these links. And maybe some of y'all have heard of perimeter. Let me come up here in blue. Maybe you've heard of perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. You don't even really need to know that. I'm going to shoot it to you straight. All you're doing is adding up all four sides. You don't have to memorize that perimeter formula. So we got a length, 3w minus 2. And I tell you what, I'm going to come right beside it and I'm going to add another 3w minus 2. Because what I'm doing, y'all, is I am taking that length and we are adding those on. But we have to remember, we have to come and add on these two W's right here, plus a width, plus a width. Look at what we're doing, y'all. We're adding up all four sides of our rectangle. Now, we still don't see our answer yet, but this is where we have to do some algebra. We have to combine like terms. So what do I mean by that? Perimeter is equal to, let's combine like terms. So we have a 3w plus another 3w. That's 6w right there. But y'all be careful. Look, look. 1w there and 1w there. That's what a lot of people forget. So here and here, all of these that I have underlined are like terms. 3w plus 3w is 6w, 7w, 8w. There's the 8w that we're seeing in our answer. And then we have to combine like terms just a little bit more. We have this minus 2, minus 2 more. Negative 2 minus 2 is minus, or you can say negative 4. There's our perimeter. Now, I got some good news for you. I do know, like, I tutor students all the time for TEAS, and I know there's some translating problems up there. I mean, heck, it's one of the goals. M.1.10 is a translating goal. Had the question said, instead of it saying, which of the following represents the perimeter, had the question said, which of the following represents the length, then we would be done with A. A would be your answer. But I want to make sure you're reading that question very carefully. And in this case, had it said the length, we would have picked A. But since we want the perimeter, we had to do several more steps. My good news there is that probably you won't have to do this extra step we did here with perimeter if you even see anything like this, but it's still worth going over. And the reason why is because there was another goal that I said I was going to tie into this. I don't know if y'all remember. Back at the beginning of the webinar, I said translating, I said geometry, and heck, we're doing some algebra right there, but here comes the real piece. So look at this bonus question that I have down here. So now I'm truly going to mix in some M.1.4, that is equations. And let's see if y'all can do this one. If the perimeter of this rectangle, so we already know the perimeter is 8w minus 4. But if that perimeter is actually 44 feet, can y'all find the length? Can you find the length? And I'll say length of the rectangle. And I'll tell you what, I'll let you try it out. I'll put a minute and 30 seconds up here. Go ahead and see if you can find the length of the rectangle. Try it out. All right. I am seeing some sixes and I'm also seeing some 16s. If you got six, you were halfway there. And again, I'm I'm just making sure. I really want you to be in tune, read that question carefully. Let's solve this equation because there is no doubt in my mind that you will have some type of equation on the math portion of the T's. And to solve that equation, we need to get this W by itself. And by the way, it did say the perimeter is 44. So all I really did there for that hint, I replaced the perimeter with 44. So let's solve this. I'm going to get rid of that -4. Let's add 4 to both sides. We're solving for W equations m dot 1 dot 4. -4 plus 4, that gives us 0. It cancels out. 44 plus 4 is 48 is equal to 8W. W, W, W. Listen to me. We have to get W by itself. And to do that, I'm going to divide by 8. And I know some of y'all who said 6, you're like, well, daggone it, it's 6. And yes, we do get 6 here, but 6 is equal to W. Do you see where I am going with this? That is the width. Oh, yeah, that's the width. What do we want? Find the length. I know I'm mean, but I want to make sure you're reading it carefully. If you got 6 for your answer, good, because you're still at least solving the equation correctly. But then me putting my twist on it is we need to find the length. So what do we know about the length, y'all? Do you remember earlier we said the length was 3W minus 2? So we need to remember that. We need to remember that the length is 3W minus 2. You can plug that 6 in to W because 6 is W, 6 is the width. Therefore, we have 3 times 6 minus 2. I'm substituting. And 3 times 6 is 18. 18 minus 2 is 16. Our answer is 16 for our length. But again, if you got 6, I'm still happy because you are solving the equation correctly. You are truly solving the equation. It's just that extra twist that I threw onto the end there. Now, I'll shoot it to you straight. That had a lot in it. I mean, we did M.1.10, M.2.4, and M.1.4. A lot going on there, but there's a lot of useful pieces in there that I hope that really did maybe open up your eyes to certain things. If nothing else, after doing both of these questions back to back, I hope you're telling yourself, man, I just got to make sure I read the question carefully. And that is 100% true. I hear that all the time. Now, as I was working on this, some people joined in late. This is being live recorded. You can rewatch it on our Facebook page. It will be on YouTube. And actually, you know what? Let me pop a few links in here for everybody. So, first one, I added it a while ago. I'm going to add it again. The first thing is that free QBank because people were asking for a link to that. So over on Facebook, YouTube, heck, I mean, I know on Instagram it's different because I know on Instagram you can't really click on the links, but maybe you can copy and paste it, or you can just, I mean, heck, if you go to Google and type in Archer Review T7, you'll get the same information. But also, too, Facebook page. I know some of y'all are already on Facebook, but I'm gonna pop that over there. Facebook. Where is it at? Sure, Facebook page. Boom. All right. So I'm popping that over on Zoom. Obviously, if you're on the Facebook page, you already have it, but there it is over on YouTube, and here it is over on Instagram. So that's where you can go back and rewatch it. And if you head over to our YouTube channel, that it won't be ready tonight. It'll be ready tomorrow once I go back up there. Actually, you know what? It will be available tonight when the stream is done. So you can go back and watch it there too. All right, so I know we've been kind of jumping all over the place, but we're covering a lot. This is a good way in like an hour, hour and a half where I can cover a bunch of different goals. So looking back at what we've done so far, we've done M.1.1, M.1.6. We did M.1.3. We did use that with the median, putting numbers in order. We've also done, heck, what did we just do? Oh, yeah, M.1.4, the equations, the geometry, the translating. So now let's start combining some other ones in our next problem. M.1.8, proportions, M.1.9, rates and ratios. I'll give you 1 minute and 30 seconds. Go ahead and try it out. All right. Y'all gonna be mad at me. Y'all gonna be mad at me. I did it again. The correct answer, I am seeing a lot of A's, but the correct answer is B. I want to make sure you're reading these questions very carefully. The question said, how many students are in the class? If you got A, you did find part of the answer. A, 35, that's how many girls there are. But the question didn't say how many girls, how many students. That's the kicker there. I know that's mean for me to do that, but it's all about making sure we read these questions carefully. So let's address, first of all, the ratio. Boys to girls, that is very important. The order. Boys is the first word, so that's the first number. Two, two, and then girls is going to be the second number. Order is important, and it is worth mentioning that you can see a ratio written like this with a little colon in between the two numbers. But we can also see it written like this. You can see a ratio written with a colon, with the word two in between them, or you can see it written as a fraction. Now, I'm going to use this fraction and I'm going to tie in a proportion. I have boys over girls. Boys are at the top, girls are right here at the bottom. So, as long as we keep the boys at the top and the girls at the bottom, we can create a proportion. And since we have 28 boys, again, this is important with proportions. Boys over girls, boys over girls. Now I'm going to put a G here just for the sole purpose of emphasizing. I mean, yes, most of y'all probably put an X. That is fine. But My point here is when you solve this, let me show you the fast way to solve proportions. Notice I went straight down here. I came in here and I wrote G equals. The fast way to solve proportions is to cross multiply and divide. And you've heard that, I'm sure. But which number do we divide by? You always divide by the number that's getting crossed with the variable. The 4 is the number that's getting crossed with the G. The 4 is the number that you will divide by. So in the calculator, here's how you can do it all at one time. You cross multiply the other two numbers first. 5 times 28. You don't even have to press equals. You can immediately divide right now by 4. Whoops, I don't know what I just did in my calculator. Hang on. Let me just close it and open it back up. There we go. Nope, get back here. There we go. All right, so 5 times 28. Immediately, boom, right now, divide by 4, press equals. Let me copy this over onto this page so that you can see exactly how I typed it in. This is the fast way to solve proportions. You cross multiply and you divide by the number that's getting crossed with the variable. You can see that that's exactly what I did here. So G is 35. We have 35 girls. We have 28 boys. And then the question says, how many students are in the class? So we want to find the boys plus the girls, and that's where we're going to get those 63 students. Our answer is B. Now, if you're beating yourself up over this, hey, the main goal here, a lot of goals actually tonight. We're mixing goals together. And plus, for like the last 2 or 3 problems, I've really tried to make sure to throw a little twist in there to make sure you're reading those questions carefully. But y'all, if you solved that equation right while ago, if you did get 35 here, you are on the right track. It's just that we got to make sure we read that question carefully. So we're mixing in some goals there. We do have some more goals that are going to get mixed up. And I think, what is our next one here? Order of operations and rounding. Order of operations and rounding. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Give it a shot. All right, order of operations. Now, the most common mistake that I see students make here, of course, we're going to worry about rounding in a moment, but PEMDAS. So let me go ahead and write out PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And I like to write it like this. I mean, yeah, you do see it written horizontally, but the reason why I like to do it like this is to emphasize the multiplication and division. That can also be DM. It doesn't, you don't always multiply before you divide. And I've probably said that a million times over my 20 years of teaching. Multiplication and division, you do whichever one of those comes first as you go from left to right in your math problem. And the same thing actually applies to addition and subtraction. I mean, you might subtract before you add in some problems. It's whichever one comes first as you move from left to right. So let's look at our problem here. In PEMDAS, we have no parentheses, no exponents down here, right? But what we do have is we have division and then multiplication. You must divide first and then multiply. You do not multiply these first. And if you did that, you probably got either C or D down here, but you cannot do that. That's not the order of operations. You know, a lot of times people are like, well, I was not told that. And I'm maybe, and I'm sorry if you weren't, but the news here is this: we must divide first because that comes first as we move from left to right. But here's the good news, y'all. I can actually type all of this in eight. Watch, here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do 8.56. We want to divide by 4 first. And then we want to multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and say times 2.21 and press equals. So look at what I've done there. I am doing the order of operations. And what I have done in one step there is I've done the division and the multiplying in order. So there's that part. Now we want to subtract first, and then we'll come back and add. So if we take 3.4 minus 2.1, I'm thinking $3.40 minus $2.10. That should be $1.30. 3.4 minus 2.1, 1.3. So that right there, 1.3. Bring down the plus. And then we have this stuff that we divided and multiplied. So in my calculator, 1.3. Add on that 4.7294. Did I type that in right? I think so. And here is our full answer. However, we want to round to the nearest tenth. So this is how we're tying goals in together. We've done some order of operations. Now we have to round, and I lied. It says nearest hundredth, not the nearest tenth. So the nearest hundredth, got to know your place value. The hundredths place is this 2. The 0 is in what's called the tenths. The 2 is in the hundredths. 9 is in the thousandths. 4 is in the 10,000ths. But that 2, does it stay a 2 or does it go up to a 3? That's what happens when you round. When you round, that number that you're rounding will either stay the same or it will go up. And in this case, it will go up, and you always look at the first digit to the right. That first digit to the right of this number tells you whether you go up or stay the same. And y'all probably do know if this number's 5 or higher, you do round up. So we're talking about an answer of 6.03 when you round to the nearest hundred. Had this 9 been a 4, 3, 2, 1, or 0, had that 9 been 4 or lower, then your answer would have been B. So intermingling our goals here, M.1.2 and M.1.7. Order of operations. Now let's mix some more goals. M.1.5. Actually, we've done M.1.5 in a bunch of our word problems tonight. Let me jump back to M.1.5. Word problems involving one or more steps. We've done that in pretty much every single word problem. I just chose to really emphasize it for this one. But M dot 1.5 and M dot 2.1 tables, charts, and graphs give you a minute and a half. Oh, and there's a bunch of other objectives, but a minute and a half, try it out. All right. So tables, charts, and graphs. When you are trying to interpret a table or a chart or a graph, you have to understand, especially with bar graphs, y'all. This is a bar graph, by the way. The first thing that people often overlook is what do these numbers represent? You have to look and see what those numbers represent. And these numbers represent the number of people, not the percentage of people. I'm trying, I make these little things here tricky because I want you to be careful. I mean, I always put a lot of tricks into my questions to point out things like, hey, you really need to pay attention to what those numbers actually mean. Every time I look at a bar graph, y'all, one of the first things I look at is I look right here on this y-axis and I say, okay, what do those numbers represent? It's the number of people, not the percentage of people. So we got asking about favorite movie genre. What percentage, we want to find a percentage of the votes selected horror or drama? Well, let's see. Horror, we got 30. Drama, we got 35. And if you added those together and you said 65%, but it's not 65%, it's 65 people. So horror and drama, 65 people. That is so important right there. Now, you might say, okay, well, 65 people, I got it. I understand what you're saying there because we got 65 folks that either picked horror or drama. Well, it's 65 people out of what? Out of, well, how in the world do we figure out of? We got to take all of our other groups, our other genres, action, 45. And let me come in here and do it with a purple or something. 45 people pick action, 25, that would be me. I love a good thriller. Comedy, 45 people there, and 25 people picked other. We must know these other ones so that we can get the total. We can get the whole. And I'm going to show you a quick way of solving this too. So let's add them all up. That will give us, we know 65 is the drama and the horror, but we got to get everybody. We got to get the total. So just going, I'm going to take the 35 plus the 45. I'm just going to add up all of these. Plus 30 plus 25 plus 45 plus 25. We get 205 people in all. And some of y'all may be thinking, well, why am I adding up the 30 and the 35 again? Because those 65 people, they count as the total too, right? You got to add up everybody. So if I go back, I want y'all to think about something here. Look at what I wrote down. 65 out of 205 people. Hmm. Is something ringing a bell? Very first question tonight. Very first math question. Had nothing to do with movie genres. But if we jump back to the first question, 3 out of 400 posters were misprinted. This is the shortcut. You don't have to do a crazy formula or anything. You have a fraction. We actually have a fraction in this example now, y'all. 65 out of 205. 65 people out of 205 people. There's our fraction. Let's convert our fraction to a decimal. How do we do that? We're going to take the 65 divided by 205. There's our decimal. And what are we going to do with this decimal? Just like earlier tonight with the poster problem, we got to convert that decimal. Whoops. We got to convert that decimal to a percent. You can either move your decimal 2 places to the right, or you can multiply by 100. Either way you look at it, you're going to get 31.7 blah, 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 blah percent. But since we want to round to the nearest percent, the nearest whole number, 31.7 becomes 32%. Now, I know I have thrown a lot of tricks at y'all tonight, and I can say it until I'm red and blue in the face, but it's all about me just making sure you can take away as much as possible from these questions and you're reading the question carefully. So, we got 2 more questions tonight, and I showed y'all the Q bank earlier, but this is a perfect time for me to tie in something else that I want to show you all. The Q bank 7-day free trial, but what I do want to show you as well, let's just take M.2.1 for example. M.2.1. So what we also have are some on-demand videos, and on-demand videos are, I mean, you may say, well, you can get these off of YouTube. I mean, sure, there's videos on YouTube. I got a bunch of them, but check this out. Math. So for on-demand videos, I'm gonna go to math, and I'm gonna go to M.2.1. So M.2. And look at this right here, y'all. This is what I like about our on-demand videos. So M.2.1, it is a 24-minute, almost 25-minute video. But look at what we have done. We break it up into little bite-sized portions. And look at that. Bar graph example. Huh. And you can watch, instead of watching 25 minutes, are you trying to fast forward and find it? Boom, you click on that. And now you're not going to be able to see the video here because we do have a special block on our videos that you can't, like, since I'm screen sharing, you cannot see it. I can't even see it because I'm screen sharing. But that's a block that we have. But look at this too. You also have notes from that exact section, M.2.1, and we also have a cheat sheet for every single section. For example, this cheat sheet here, tables, charts, and graphs. I mean, you got your bar graphs, pie charts, line graphs, scatter plots, histograms, every type of possible table, chart, or graph that you can see on the T7. So all of that comes in the on-demand videos. Long videos, sure, but we break it up into bite-sized portions so that you can find what you want. So that's my spiel there. We've talked about the Q bank. We talked about the videos. Let's move on to number 8, M.2.5. That is your conversions, measurements and conversions, but it's mixed with many other goals and objectives. 1 minute and 30 seconds. Go ahead and try it out. All right, so M dot 2.5, that is your measurements and conversions. We're actually mixing this with proportions if you did decide to do a proportion, or you may just know when to multiply versus when to divide. But then the other piece that's mixed in here is some more rounding. So let's go ahead and talk about the fast way. You need 11 teaspoons of vanilla extract for these pancakes. 11 teaspoons. So you need, listen to me, you need 11 teaspoons. Well, just one teaspoon, it's actually in the nursing field, we go ahead and say 5 milliliters. I get it. But one teaspoon actually is not exactly 5 milliliters. It tells us in this problem, one teaspoon is 4.93 milliliters. If you're ever given a conversion in the problem, use that conversion instead of whatever you may have memorized. So listen to me again, y'all. Here comes the fast way. We need 11 teaspoons, but just one teaspoon has this many milliliters. But that is just one teaspoon. We need 11 of those teaspoons. So, therefore, our fast way is to take, we need 11 of these. We need to take 11 times 4.93 and we get 54.23. So, listen to me again about this fast way. Make sure we understand. You might say, well, how did I know to multiply? I mean, some people have this idea of taking where you go from smaller to bigger or bigger to smaller. But if you stop and read that again, we need 11 teaspoons and just one teaspoon is that many milliliters. But that is just one teaspoon. We need 11 of those. That's why I multiply by 11. We're not done with this question though. We want to round to the nearest tenth place value. The tenth place is the first spot to the right of the decimal. Tenth place, first spot to the right. That 3 tells that 2 to stay the same. So our answer is 54.2, and that will be 54.2 milliliters. So I'm going that's like a time thing, and that was when all these practice test webinars that I've been doing, I want to focus on speed and I'm definitely showing you here some of the faster ways to do this problem. However, if you did want to do a proportion, because I totally get it. I totally get it. A lot of students get confused about when should I multiply, when should I divide. So 11 teaspoons, but we know that one teaspoon is 4.93 milliliters. One teaspoon is equal to 4.93 milliliters. That's what it says. One teaspoon equals 4.93 milliliters. So you may not have done your proportion like this, but what I have done is I have put teaspoons. This is like my teaspoon fraction, and this is my milliliter fraction. One teaspoon equals 4.93 milliliters. 11 teaspoons is equal to how many milliliters? That's where we're going to put our X because we're trying to figure out 11 teaspoons is how many milliliters. And now we're back to the proportion. You cross multiply and divide. What are we going to end up dividing by here, y'all? I mentioned that shortcut earlier tonight. What number do we end up dividing by? We will end up dividing by 1 because that's the number getting crossed with the X. We always, when we cross multiply and divide, we divide by the number that's getting crossed with the X. Now, some of y'all may have been doing dimensional analysis. I know I haven't covered any dimensional analysis tonight. I do want to talk about some of my upcoming free webinars. I really think y'all might like them if you're testing I think, well, I'm going to pull it up right here in a second. I'm going to show that to y'all. Upcoming free webinars. But if you multiply these, 4.93 times 11, that's the exact same thing we did here. Sure, you can divide by 1 if you want, but it's not going to change anything. Now, in terms of, I do see a question over on YouTube, and this student makes a valid point. And the student says, I thought since we're dealing with food that we need to go over the amount. Now, I understand exactly what you're saying. And let me give you the context. It's worth mentioning. It's all about when you have to go to the grocery store. So here we're not going to go over. But let's suppose that you needed uh 1.2 gallons of milk. I'm just gonna come, I'm doing a little sidebar here. Suppose you needed 1.2 gallons of milk. Let's just stay for pancakes again. That's gonna make a bunch of pancakes, by the way. Suppose you needed 1.2 gallons of milk for pancakes. You can only buy milk by the gallon at your local grocery store. And I get it. I mean, I know you can buy half gallons, but I'm going to act like they don't have them. So this is a case where we don't want to round this and say one. If you need 1.2 gallons of milk, but you can only buy milk by the gallon, you would have to buy 2 gallons of milk in order to have enough. That's when we would need to go over in that case. Now, are you going to run across something like that on the teas? I don't think so, but I definitely wanted to address that. Here, we're not going and buying anything. We're trying to convert 11 teaspoons to milliliters. That's all we're trying to do there. I hope that makes sense. All right, so y'all made it this far. We got one more question, then we're going to do um the free tutoring session giveaway. And that's going to come up after this last problem. The Lone Rider, M.2.3. This is the only problem tonight that's not mixed with other objectives. Minute and a half, try it out. All right. Last question for the night. And we are going out with a bang, y'all. Look, I tell you what, I'm sitting here looking at every single chat stream, and the bees are overwhelming, which is good. The bees, or B in this case, is going to be our correct answer because that is the only one up here that represents a positive relationship. But I still want to talk about why these other ones are negative. And what makes this problem tough is that nowhere up here am I saying as one thing goes up, something else goes up, or as one thing goes up, something else goes down. That's what makes this more critical. It requires a lot more critical thinking. So let's just suppose you increase the miles that you're driving a car. So as miles go up, the amount of gas in the tank will go down. That is a negative relationship. As one thing goes up, something else goes down. It's all about opposite directions, y'all. For example, look, let's come in here to see. The colder it gets, as temperature goes down, coat sales will go up. That is a negative relationship. And some of y'all may be thinking, well, how am I supposed to know to make one go down and all that? Critical thinking skills. Check it out. I know I said here, as temperature goes down, coat sales go up, but look. If I said, hey, let's suppose the temperature's going up. If it's getting hot outside, then coat sales are going to go down. It's still a negative relationship. So if you were wondering, well, how do I know whether to make one go up or go down? Just do it. Just say, okay, hey, I'm gonna let temperature go down. And if temperature goes down, what's gonna happen to coat sales? If it's getting cold, coat sales are gonna go up. It's a negative relationship. Rainfall amount. Let's suppose that it is pouring down rain outside. As rainfall goes up, the more it rains, there's probably going to be less people at the park. As rainfall goes up, people at the park will go down. That is a negative relationship because they head in opposite directions. And then finally, back to our correct answer, the more hours you work, the more your paycheck is going to be. They are both heading in the same direction. And you might say, oh, no. They're both going up. Yes. But look. If you work less, you make less. That is still a positive relationship because they head in the same direction. That's what you have to understand about negative versus positive relationships. Negative relationships, they always head in opposite directions. Positive relationships, I don't care if they both go up, I don't care if they both go down. Positive, they head in the same direction. So that's M. 2.3, the lone rider. Out of 9 questions we've done tonight, 8 of the 9 questions we've done tonight, y'all, have tied in all a bunch of these goals and objectives. But we had that lone rider right there. And what did I do this one with? Did I do that one with some proportions? I tell you what, my OCD is getting to me. So I just got to come over here and color code it because we did do some proportions with that standard and metric measurements. But there's our lone rider. We did not combine anything with M. 2.3. That concludes the webinar piece, but now I want to do the free tutoring giveaway. So here is how you can enter into the tutoring giveaway. For my folks over on Instagram, you're going to have to either grab another phone or type in the URL because I know Instagram you cannot click on a link. I'm gonna pop this link for everybody else. I'm gonna pop it over in the Zoom chat, YouTube, Facebook group. Oh, where did it go? Survey. Boom. All right, Zoom, there's the link if you want to click on it. Facebook and YouTube, there's the link there. And Instagram, if you can copy and paste it or somehow or another, there's that link. Can you click on links now? You still can't do it. Nope, sure can't. But you can scan that QR code. This is how you get into it. So I'm going to put a little timer up here, 1 minute and 30 seconds. I'm going to let you, actually, I'll give you 2 minutes. Take the survey. You have to put in your email address and your first name, and that's how you can get entered into the free tutoring session. I'll be back in 2 minutes. All right. I still think a few more people are filling out that form, but just to kind of go over this too. So look at this green email address here. Whoever wins, what you're going to have to do is email that, and you'll have to email me. Well, you're emailing pre-nursing at archerreview.com. Well, hopefully most of y'all already have created an account. You can create an account at Archer Review's website, our website, and that account's totally free. But what you'll need to do is whatever email address you used when you created the account, email us from that, as well as, or hopefully you use the same email address in the survey, but email us pre-nursing at archerreview.com from the email address, either your account or the one that you filled out the survey with, because that allows us to cross-reference and make sure we have the right person. Okay. I think how many results I got? About what, 30-ish? I tell you what, if y'all want to come in real quick, if anybody just wants to say, hold up, tell me hold up if you need another second or two. Then we'll do the giveaway. I'm just reading over some of them too, y'all. Thank y'all so much. I love the feedback, whether it be constructive or positive. I do take it very seriously. That's how I improve what I do. So thank you all for the feedback. All right. I don't see any holdups anywhere. So here we go. All right. I'm going to take the names. I'm just going to come over here to a random name picker. Give me 1 second to copy all of the names over. All right. Popping them in. Random name picker. All right. Oh, okay. This person, I think they put in just the first name. Hopefully, there's not two of y'all. Okay, I got Emily. Emily. And I don't see a last name, which is fine. I think that is the only Emily that I see. Perfect. So, Emily, you know what to do. Email pre-nursing at archerreview.com. And before I go, I want to, this is cool, y'all. I want to make sure Archer Reg Web. I don't think is it going to show up here? Yes. Now, I do have two webinars coming up in April too, y'all. But there's one that I want to show y'all coming up in May, and I'm really pumped about it. If we can get it, if we get a lot of people, these have been really good webinars that I've done in the past. I have two coming up in April, but there's one coming up in May. It's a Q&A webinar where actually like you can go in there and you can submit questions that you want to do. And I love doing those because it kind of puts me on the spot. I mean, you can come to the webinar with questions right at the webinar and I'll work them out. So it's kind of like you don't know what you're going to get. And I love those type. I like being put on the spot, doing math questions that are not pre-made. That is in May, but again, there's some coming up in April as well. But congratulations, Emily. If you can email pre-nursing at archerreview.com. If y'all have any little last minute questions, I'll hang out for a minute. Otherwise, you all take care. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all in April. Have a good night. All right. So, question. I can teach any math you want. So if some of y'all need other math besides, whoops, let me cut on Instagram as well. So question was, do I teach other types of math? Statistics, college algebra, I can teach any type of math. It doesn't have to be, if you want some tutoring, you can come get tutoring for any math subject. So some of y'all taking stats, college algebra, calculus, hit me up. I can do it all. Um, those are some of my favorite things to teach. That's pretty much all I taught when I did teach college math before I came on full time at Archer. So most definitely. And Miss Emily, I'm gonna reply to you. So did you understand? Well, just did you understand the instructions on claiming your free tutoring? That email address, prenursing at archerreview.com. Yes, send that email. I'm gonna type it over to you. Whoops, wrong thing. Sorry. Boom. Send it there and we'll get you straight. But y'all take care. Oh, and over on YouTube, Archer Brandon, check that out. Andrea, you were asking about the other subjects. That's the link to my tutoring page at Archer. If you want it over on Zoom, whoops, I'm gonna send this to everybody. Archer. If y'all want some private tutoring. But yeah, I'm signing off. Y'all take care, and I will talk to y'all in April. Have a good night.